My name is DJ. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am a bisexual Mormon.
I'm Seth. I am also from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm a gay Mormon. Okay. How did you come into your identity while growing up Mormon? I am definitely kind of the poster child kid who assumed, because I wasn't attracted to women, that I was so much better than everyone. And so I really fed into this idea of like, I'm such a good kid. I love the church. I am the best Mormon. Like, that's me. And I get a lot of my worth and my like joy in life from that. But at the end of high school is kind of when I started realizing like, oh, I'm still a sexual being, like, and there's something going on here. And I just kind of assumed it was gay, but I never asked about it. I never thought about it. I just kind of assumed that's what it was. And it wasn't until I had a girlfriend that I finally asked myself some pretty hard questions and decided, yep, this is what's going on. And I'm going to start acting as if, how do I say this? Like, I'm like, okay, if I'm gay, then I need to start like being gay and going to therapy for being gay, or, you know, telling people that I'm gay. And that kind of started the journey to where I am now, where I'm very comfortable with myself and I'm very happy with who I am and what my life looks like.
I mean, I kind of had, I guess, an opposite experience, I guess, because obviously I knew I liked women, you know, like from a very young age, and that's always been something that's been a part of me as well. So when I started to kind of realize something's going on with men too, I was like, well, I have to be gay, and obviously. And then I kind of ran into the whole problem of like, well, but I would absolutely not say I would never date a woman, because that's not my sexuality, you know? And so I kind of got into this, I don't know, whereas like you had the kind of awakening from feeling like, oh, I don't feel sexual feelings for women, so I'm a good Mormon. I kind of felt the opposite of like, dang, I feel sexual feelings for everybody. I'm like the worst Mormon there is.
Yeah.
When it took a long time to like come to terms with that and like figure out what it was. I don't know. I had a lot of bishops that were like, you don't like boys, you're just sensitive.
Yeah.
Which, didn't make it any easier to figure out. How do you reconcile your sexuality with your religion?
I'm glad you're answering this one first.
I don't know. That's definitely like a harder one because for a long time I don't feel like I did. You know, I kind of felt like, well, I'm bisexual, so I can just date women and I can kind of ignore the fact that my identity isn't compatible with Mormonism and stuff like that. And then as I got older, I don't know, I went through obviously the whole, he'll consecrate this for my good, and all that stuff of like, if I sacrifice my sexuality, then I'll be rewarded in heaven. And then after I kind of shifted out of that, which was kind of towards the end of my mission, I feel, I realized that I don't have this traditional view of God. I don't pretend to know whether or not God is going to, you know, we're going to meet God one day and he is going to be 100% like my pronouns are he, him, and I am straight and you all should be as well. I don't pretend to know that. I feel like that is not something that anybody knows at this point, you know? I feel like whoever created us, God, as we had to have done so in a loving way and had to have done so in the image of God.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing about my identity, like about who I am. There are things I do that are wrong, but there's nothing about my identity that can possibly be wrong.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been like my journey there. Obviously I don't feel like everybody around me in my ward feels the same way.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like what they think matters, because in the end It's about my identity and how that fits in with my relationship with my Creator. It's a very individual thing.
I remember I was like you. I was ready to die on this hill. I was like, I am so ready to be the next Ben Shalati or whatever. Like, not that I wanted the clout, but I was like, I'm ready to be that guy, to live that lifestyle, because this religion is all I have. Right. And I remember the first time that I kissed a boy, and it was the first time in my life that I didn't hate myself. There's this very strong, palpable, like, whoa. Something that I've been holding on to for so long, I just let go of that, and I feel so much better. And I told that to the bishop that I had at the time, who is my favorite bishop I've ever had. And it was interesting because I told him that, and then I said, I guess I can leave now. Like, I'll stop going to church. Sorry, I'm going to keep kissing boys because it feels great. And he said, I would rather have 1% of you at church than 0% of you at church. So he was like, if you want to come to church once a month and that will somehow fulfill some communal need that you have, like, do it. I'm not going to take away your endorsement. I'm not going to report you into anything. He's like, I want as much of you as you want to give a church. And I think because of him, I have been able to, since then, continue identifying as both gay and then also a member of the church, because he helped me see that, like, it is, again, as long as I'm not hating myself, as long as I'm happy, like, I think that's where religion is supposed to bring me, and he's, like, shown me that.
I love that. I wish more people had bishops like that.
Me too. Can he be the bishop of the whole church is my,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I actually have this friend, he graduated from BYU and then from the U, and he married another guy who did the same, and they just moved to Washington, D.C. and everything. And the coolest thing is that he met with his bishop while he was dating this other guy, because somebody in like the stake high council or something had said, like, we didn't take away his temple recommend or whatever, which is all too common. And his bishop, like, the first question that he asked him was something along the lines of like what you said, like, does it make you happy? Like, do you feel better when you're dating him? And yeah. And so he kind of went on this journey after that led to them getting married and everything. And people from his ward coming, and like, I was there, cried multiple times.
Yeah.
There was a gay BYU grad that actually married them. It was just a really cool experience that I feel like so many straight people miss out on because they have such a narrow view of what God wants for us in our lives. And so they miss out on the joy of, like, my friend getting married to his wonderful husband and them having this awesome life. I think they're somewhere on the East Coast now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they completely miss the joy of figuring out your own identity because they think that their identity has to match up with something that's straight out of the scriptures, or is something that someone in general conference would say, that's a good identity to have, you know? And they kind of miss out on the figuring it out part of human experience. And I feel like more bishops should be like yours and encourage that. Like, figure yourself out, figure out who you are, because God doesn't just expect you to conform to this, I don't even know, this cookie cutter idea of what it means to be human.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of us coming here,
I also think, sorry, just tagging off that, like I get that because I am actively, like, I have a boyfriend, I don't have a temple recommend anymore, like, and I can't have it all, and I get that. Right. And, like, that used to make me really angry, that I'm like, I wish I could get sealed and have everything that my family taught me what to want, but then also have what I want. And, like, you can't have it all. And I spent a lot of time being really angry about that, but recently I have some friends who are getting sealed in June, I think. And I told them, they invited me to the sealing, and I said, hey, by the way, I actually don't have a temple recommend anymore. And they just blinked, like, okay, like, you're still coming, right? Like, you're still going to be outside, you're still going to be at the party, you're still going to be at the bachelor party. They're like, which I thought was really interesting, that I can still have the rich relationships that I need in my life. And for me, that is so much more important than having a piece of paper signed by my bishop. So that's another way that I've just been able to reconcile things. Like, you know what? I still have wonderful friends, and my family's very supportive. And, like, I don't feel the need to ask for more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Do you hope to have a partner in the future? Doesn't really apply to me so much. I have a wife.
Oh, nice.
She's actually out in the car.
So you planned to have a partner, and it happened. That's amazing. Yeah.
Happened. I did kind of. So I didn't come out to my mom until after my mission.
Yeah.
And when I did, her first response was not to call out my mom or anything. I love my mom, and she's done really great and has kind of opened up and learned more since. But her first response was, "Thank you for telling me. You still like girls, though, so you're gonna marry a woman, right?"
Yeah.
And at that point, I had a crush on my wife. I met her on my mission and everything, and so I was like, probably,
right,
but
right.
Not because I feel like I have to.
Yeah.
You know, like if I marry a woman, it's going to be because I fell in love with a woman.
Yeah.
But the same would have applied the other way. And that was just kind of something I dealt with coming to terms with my sexuality in the church. Every time I would come out to somebody, they would tend to be like, "Oh, well, that's an easy sexuality to deal with, though, because you'll just marry a woman." And
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you faced that, yeah.
It was very much just like, well, yeah, that's an option, I guess, but like, I'm not coming out to you to tell you a cool little fact about me. I want you to understand, like, this is who I am. This is how I differ from who you thought I would be, you know? And so I guess this question doesn't really apply, but that's kind of my experience with that. I didn't really ever hope that it would, well, when I started finding out, I hoped 100%. I was like, yes, I'm going to marry a woman.
Yeah.
As I came to terms with my sexuality, I didn't really feel like, I guess, a hope either way, you know, just hope that I find somebody that I love. And I did. So.
Yeah. Which, again, what we're all hoping for, right?
Right.
No, it was not a super long time ago that I kind of had this breakthrough where I was like, yes, I want to get married to a guy, which, again, I had known I was gay for a while. I was even dating at that point, but I was like, it was just this day where I was like, no, that's what I want. Like, part of me, somewhere deep down, that is desperately what I want. And that isn't informed by anyone, like my parents telling me that or a church telling me that. Like, I want that. But just to, like, be clear, to get to that point in my life, and, like, right now, like, I have a boyfriend, you know, and, like, I'm dating for marriage in a sense, but, like, I had to let go of a lot to get there. And so if you had asked me even a year ago when I was a lot more entrenched in church culture, like, I would never let myself want that. Even though I always did. I always wanted that, but I would never admit it until I had to let a lot of things go. I had to quit my job at the church. I had to, again, stop going to second hour of church. I had to stop reading the scriptures for 30 minutes every day. And only at that point, when I kind of just distanced myself from these voices that were telling me this is how you should live, that is when I was like, oh wait, this is actually what I want. And now I'm, again, very happy and very, you know, excited about my future, which is a new feeling.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I absolutely love that for you. I really like that you brought up kind of discovering what you want and isn't something that's imposed on you from somebody else. Because I feel like that is something that a lot of members of the church miss out on.
Yeah.
They kind of go their whole lives not finding out what they want, regardless of if they're straight or LGBT in any way.
Oh, yeah.
Because it might be that their journey of self-discovery ends up on them being cisgender straight people.
Who get married in the temple and have 12 kids. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But coming to that conclusion yourself is so important. And I feel like this rigidity when it comes to LGBT identities robs straight people of that same self-discovery that, like, we go through our whole lives. And we go through it because it's necessary. There's this dissonance in ourselves until we figure it out. But I feel like everybody is entitled to that journey of self-discovery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Just like finger snaps for that. Yeah. And again, I do want to say, like, I didn't have missionaries knocking my door telling me to want a straight marriage, but it's because I really fit into that. And it was a very conscious choice to be like, okay, who's feeding me with all this information is me, because I go to church and I read the scriptures for an hour a day. And again, we made it. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm glad. I guess I have to answer this one first. Do you think Mormonism will change its viewpoints on sexuality and gender identity? Oh, okay. So in my time of being someone who was very righteous, I worked for the church. I worked in the missionary department for about 4 years. And so I've seen what the church looks like on Sundays, and I've also seen what it looks like from a business standpoint at the church office building, at the MTC. I've seen how change is made from a church standpoint, and it's not going to happen. But I will say, I was really impressed with a lot of the leadership, because there is, or at least I saw, a lot of seeds of desire to change. And even the way that they change how missionaries are allowed to interact with other people, I thought was really interesting. So again, I don't think they're ever going to change that, because it's too much of their doctrine. But I do think that it's not a completely it's not in complete stasis. I believe things will change, not those things, but I think the leadership is a bit more understanding of the world's current climate, and I think they want to make changes that will help more people.
I totally agree. I wish it would change.
Oh, yeah.
So much. I have seen a lot of good change in the church recently. Not related to anything LGBT.
Yeah.
Really. But I went to one devotional this semester, and it was just because I'm in the choir that was singing.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So I had to go. And it was some BYU librarian. And it was actually really cool. You know how they always give the list of like daring to stand alone and like all these different things that the world might not accept, but you have to do. I liked that his wasn't kind of cookie cutter. Like everybody else is like, yeah, go to church, pay your tithing, read your scriptures, things the world doesn't do. And then he also said, root out things like systemic racism in our institutions, which is a thing that the world at large is kind of reluctant to do. I do see what you're saying, and like I really think that there are a lot of people in higher positions that do want change, and I can see the goodness in them. But I don't think the church as an institution is going to ever say, gay people can get seated in the church. And I think, like you said, I really don't know if any of those, frankly, mostly old white guys, even understand the nuances of gender identity.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to ever make a statement on it beyond what you said. God loves you. So it is kind of bleak. But I also have the hope. I wouldn't be surprised if we die and we come face to face with God one day. And then he asks us the question, did you love your trans brothers and sisters? Did you let them participate? Did you let them receive the blessings that you were able to receive? And all this stuff. I would not be surprised. I would actually be really surprised if he didn't ask us whether or not we were inclusive. And kind of tisk a little bit if we weren't, you know? But yeah, that's a large part of why I'm still in the church, because I do believe that all of this stuff will be sorted out when we're dead. But I don't know if it ever will when we're here.
And what's interesting too, just thinking about what you're saying, there's a talk by Sister Aburto, I think. And the point of her talk was like the church is not an institution, it's a bunch of people, which was lovely. And in my experience, I've been really lucky. I know I've been really lucky that like, I have never, even though I've been living in Utah for several years now, I have never once faced any sort of homophobia. I mean, definitely people, I know they're a little bit afraid when I talk about gay things, but like I have never lost a friend. And most of my friends in the church, again, they ask about my dating life. They invite me to parties. Again, like I've never faced that kind of discrimination, which I understand is a very rare experience. But at the same time, if the church is people, then the church is changing, because all of my members of the French church are very accepting and very kind and surprise me, honestly, every day. Again, I don't let the church really control me. Like, whether or not I can get sealed in temple, I will probably get married to a man. Like, that's not the church's choice, that's mine. But it's just been really wonderful to, again, see people in the headquarters of the church show so much acceptance, and it gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, I love that, because if you do see it as a set of people. I have
Yeah.
As an institution.
Yeah, as a business, as an employer,
Right.
I won't cuss on this video, but as a people, it's wonderful. I've had some really wonderful experiences.
I actually worked for the church for a little while as well, at the MTC.
Nice, yeah. Gayest place in the church. You heard it here first.
Honestly. And I worked remote, so I didn't have a lot of, I guess, experience with everybody else there. But I was struck by their, what do you call it? It's not harassment, it's workplace discrimination trainings. Because they said federal law prohibits us from all this stuff. Like we can't discriminate based on age, race, and a handful of other things. And then they specifically did not mention sexuality.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And they said all other protected
populations
yep. applicable to the church. And I was like, I know you're saying that innocuously, but I know the applicable to the church means if I lose my temple recommend because my sexuality, then I won't have a job anymore.
Yep.
Because that is something that they have kind of a legal loophole to discriminate based on.
Yep.
Which, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Spent a lot of time angry about that one. But again, I'm not working there anymore. And yeah.